ReACH is particularly important for the V&A because our first director, a man called Henry Cole, in 1867 wrote a convention which established the guidelines for sharing reproductions of art. And in those days, it was about plaster casts and photography, and today it's around digital imaging and scanning and 3D printers. So the V&A has been discussing these ideas for 150 years, and we felt that in conjunction with the Peri Foundation, this was a really good moment as the technology is accelerating so fast to go back to those first principles and think about them again.
We are very proud to be the main collaborator of V&A in the ReACH project, because the project to us it's about access to culture. It's about the fact that it belongs to the whole humankind.
What the ReACH initiative has really enabled is to open a truly global dialogue on this question of digital reproduction in a way that hasn't been done before. And it is a global question that no individual or institution on their own could really tackle.
It's about how ownership of cultural heritage works. Who owns cultural heritage? To which degree you can actually share ownership? I mean, it makes headlines in our newspapers when another terrorist attack has destroyed a temple. We know about culture cleansing in the Middle East. We know about looting. So what I think the next steps and the echo of this new convention will be that it will really open the book, 150 years after Cole's convention, to how sharing cultural heritage looks in the 21st century.
The importance of sharing this information, of making it understood in 100 years to come, has become very obvious. And it's not only museums now, it's also universities, private foundations, non-for-profit organizations, groups of volunteers. And I think that just 2 meetings in Washington and St. Petersburg showed us the huge diversity of legislation issues, of traditions, of attitudes, even of terminology.
The writing process was very much an iterative process where we tried to really bring in multiple voices, so that was a complex process but a very enriching one, which has enabled us to create a real true common ground with the new ReACH declaration.
In conservation practice, it's really important to have access to good quality information regarding the pieces that we restore. And I believe that ReACH and the guidelines that we expect from it would provide us the opportunity to trust the information that we will receive.
To find some kind of common understanding between the museums, to know what we really want to do with digital reproduction and what our common aim is as public institutions.
This question of how we manage digital technology, historic artifacts, community rights, issues of preservation and conservation and protection is something that they all need to engage with. And I think the Peri Foundation with ourselves have really brought together a global conversation on this.
Having the round tables around different countries and different continents provide the opportunity to gather all the information from the local practice. The sharing aspect of the information that we will all gather is, under my point of view, the most important one. In the Middle East, where the profession of the conservation is relatively new, we need to gather this library of information that would help all our colleagues working around the MENA region.
We are working on opening new museums, on documentation of cultural landscape, historic buildings, historic sites. It is important to really implement and adopt and comply with international practices.
This new text is a powerful promise to work together hand in hand towards attaining our target, which is, at the end of the day, what I would call it is safeguarding our future by protecting our past.
I really enjoyed the roundtable. We, in the heritage field, we're discussing a lot now the issue of reconstruction, and we have not come to terms even when we talk about post-conflict reconstruction.
I think it's challenging to figure out what does it look like for us to open this sort of data out to the public? Are we comfortable with the kind of new uses? Are we comfortable with people creating commercial products off of the sort of things that we do? once you create it, it's reproducible again and again and again.
There is a general feeling in the museum communities that new technologies present more danger than opportunity. And it was a goal not only to gather best practices and best experiences, but also to make different museums aware of the number of opportunities which new technologies present.
There's a whole new set of questions that come around that, like what kind of uses can come out of these new models that we generate. But at the same time, the benefit is incredible. The ability for anyone anywhere in the world to engage with our heritage, which again, when we look back at that 150-year-old convention, was this idea of being able to expose people to heritage that they wouldn't otherwise be able to see. And it's something that we can actually deliver on now and give to the public in a way that we just simply could not have even a few decades ago.
It's very good to have this opportunity to discuss with colleagues on this kind of issue, ethical, political, educational and technical issues on how to have more outreach with the digitization of our collections.
The way this project is structured with all the roundtables, starting, in Paris, in Washington, in St. Petersburg, and now here in Abu Dhabi, is actually a process for me to learn. So I'm actually coming to these roundtables and I'm returning back home inspired by amazing presentations on various topics which I have never before considered.
This meeting was very productive for one reason. There is very different people at the same table from different environment. I mean, to share a view with people from the museum, from NGO, from companies, it's very interesting because the point of view are very different.
Being able to hear people's opinions and voices coming from their own expertise, it's something that really happens best when we're all in a room together, which is funny, again, when we're talking about, something new and digital, like, we could just do Skype calls, but there's actually something that flows when people have a meal together that I think allows for conversations to go in different directions, even when they're on opposite sides of the table.
Combining these different disciplines and seeing what everyone does, at the end of the day, it all revolves around the same concept. It's like we all see there is a problem and we try to solve it.
Conservation of cultural heritage now can't be just about objects or sites. It really has to be about the people who take ownership, who want to explore it, who want to learn from it. And I think that's what the ReACH project shows better than any other initiative I have seen over the past years. It's a wonderful project and a wonderful initiative by the V&A.
Bringing people together on a very complex and very important topic can really help. And I'm sure that for the Louvre, for instance, at the new convention we are trying to work in, it will help us a lot. And that I will be trying to also, I'm bringing new ideas to the museum. And this is also something very important for us.
What's been so rewarding about these series of roundtables we brought together with the Peri Foundation is just the range of participants. And I think we've all learned an incredible amount from one another, but we've also realised that we're just at the edge of something really fascinating, something really exciting. And if we can establish some guidelines, if we can share best practice, if we can learn more from one another, then I think we'll have achieved an enormous amount.